Stand by, please.
All right. I'd like to call to order the August 15th, 2023 meeting of the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Amy Johannick as temporary chair of this meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Welcome, Madam Chair.
For one meeting. What? Yeah, no. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 18th, 2023 Ag and Rural meeting. Any changes, additions?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second that.
Second. The motion passes. The approval of the minutes from the last meeting, July 18th. The third item on our agenda is the public appearance for non-agenda items. Do we have anyone here for a non-agenda item? Seeing none, hearing none, no one on Zoom. All right, so then we will move to item number 4, which is the agenda review. Are there any changes to the agenda? Any changes, Adam?
That's you, Adam.
Sorry. I just would like to make a motion to move agenda item A to the end of the list so that folks in attendance can get to their business immediately.
I'll second.
All those in favor of moving agenda item A for the election of a new chair to the end, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. So we will do our voting of a new chair at the end of the meeting. So that brings us to agenda item 5B for the certified survey map CS-2516-23, the request by Gerald Mant to approve a certified survey map in order to subdivide one buildable residential lot and consolidate a farm from 2 existing agricultural tracts on a property associated with 2539 County Highway MM. I don't have anyone registered.
I'll move for approval.
We've seen these folks before.
Second.
Second, okay.
We'll get the staff report.
Okay, and now Deanna can give us a
Yep.
staff report.
Yep, we can go ahead and do the staff report. This is 2 items, certified survey map, and then also a rezone.
Do them both at the same time.
Yeah,
Items B and C.
we'll take those together, and this is something that falls under the rural residential development criteria. So staff has been reviewing this in terms of those rural residential development criterias. The overall site is about 58 acres. The current zoning is exclusive agriculture and low-density residential. And there's no problems with the consistency of the comprehensive plan. The current properties are described by meets and bounds, and the proposed project here is the development of a new single-family residence on which would be lot 2 on the proposed CSM that you see up on the screen. The required criteria for the rural residential development is A, compatibility with adjacent farm operations, B, environmentally sensitive areas, avoiding those, C, the lot shape and depth and width ratio shall be 2:1, and then D is woodland cover. A forest management plan is required for improvements on wooded or partially wooded lots, and then heritage tree protection. So those are the required criteria under RRDC. Additional criteria that may be waived under the RRDC is a history of tillage, residential infill, lot size, less than 1.5 acres, and avoiding slopes that could have erosion potential. The properties are outside of the urban service area. The northern part of the properties include the future single-family residence site, are outside of the future urban development. I don't think I quite got that. Are outside of the future urban development area. The southern portion of the properties are in the east Highway 14, Fuda, the future area development. The proposed single-family lot on Lot 2 will lie south of the existing home at 2517. The proposed subdivision requires the use of a claim in conformance to the RRDC standards outlined above. The parent base farm that we're on right now with the Mance is Base Farm 19, which has no more remaining claims. However, the owners, the Mance are also owners of Base Farm 13, which has 5 claims, 2 of which may be used under the RRDC. So this one's a little bit different. They're proposing to transfer a claim from Base Farm, from one base farm to another base farm. That transferring that one claim would leave a remaining 1 claim on Base Farm 31, and then the remaining 3 claims on Base Farm 31 must be used in a rural cluster development under section 22-611. The proposed single-family lot complies with the following criteria, and I'm going back up to the A through E of the required criteria. Compatibility with adjacent operations. There's mostly, this area has not been farmed. No impact to environmentally sensitive areas. The lot shape is proper. Staff is not aware of impact to heritage trees. But staff is requesting that the applicants provide further information on the sizes and types of trees that are on the site, just to ensure that a wood forestry management plan is not needed. The proposed single-family lot complies with 2 criteria that may be waived. Residential infill, it's directly south of an existing single-family lot, and no significant erosion control. The applicants therefore will request to waive 2 criteria: the history of tillage, part of the site it appears has been still tilled, and then to request a waiver on the lot size. The lot size is just barely over 1.5. So we would just be waiving that requirement. I think, let's see, I think I'll just leave it at that. Staff does recommend approval of the certified survey map with the 12 conditions, and then approval of the rezone, and that rezone would be from AX, exclusive agriculture, to RL, low density residential. So staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Deanna. Is there any discussion, questions?
I have none.
What's the reason for not staying below the 1.5? I mean, that's a pretty easy shift to acquire that maximum acreage.
I think when they drew the line, they were looking for about 1.5 acres. And with the way it was drawn, there it ended up being 1.52, just a little over. It kept it to the south border where the parcel actually technically ends, rather than leaving an opportunity for, I guess, the maximum lot size that we could really get out of that.
Sure.
And didn't realize that it went to 0.2. Because of 1 foot maybe.
If even that, right, yeah.
Is there any other questions?
The only thing I wondered about is under the criteria that may be waived, the erosion potential. It looks like that starts with lot should be 1.5 acres or less, so would we technically need that waived too? But you said there's no tillage, I mean, no erosion issues, so we would waive it, but I don't know, technically that should be in the list also.
Sorry, I didn't follow you.
Erosion? I
Yeah,
don't
under
see
the
correlation.
criteria that may be waived, lot size should be under 1.5.
So I'm proposing that
That's a waive.
we would waive that.
Right, but then the erosion potential also says lot should be under 1.5, so it's technical, I just
Oh.
wonder if we should just add.
You caught me,
Wait,
I know where you're
I
going.
don't see that.
Okay, yes, I know where you're going. Okay,
We
so,
should waive both.
Yes, so we probably should. These are the criteria, and this comes from our comprehensive plan, right? And so these are the criteria that should be waived, and yes, you are correct.
Great catch.
Great
Okay, so we should add that as E? For,
Yes.
okay,
Well, we will
E
waive
and
D.
A.
Yeah.
okay, waive D, but then add, okay. Slash 1.5. Thank you, good catch.
Well, that's what happens when you're the newbie and you don't know anything, so they do it, so they read all this more carefully.
Can you go back to the CSM?
Yes.
Oh, I found it. Do you have to waive B, or do you have enough room to get away from the house on the existing parcel above lot 2? You have to be 300 feet away from a house with any new house?
Within 300, yeah.
I think you need
It has
to
to
be
be
within,
within, okay.
yeah, and they should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
300 feet, within 300 feet of another.
Within 300 feet
Within 300
of
feet
the
of-
existing house to the north.
I have a question on the, off Irish Lane, the access to the field, is that always been there?
It has been, but I'll let Jerry talk to that.
Jim probably knows more than this, but I believe that was a Gorman property, and when the Irish Lane homes were put there, they left an easement for the farm access on Irish Lanes. Yeah.
Yeah, still foundation.
I think that was put there for access to the property from Irish Lane.
Which I think that was good, because access off of M, a lot riskier.
Well, I would think that at that point, they were planning further development at that point, the Gormans
Right,
were.
oh, okay, right.
I would agree with you.
So,
Yeah, I just drove by there and I was like looking for that.
they used to mow it, now they don't. I don't know if it's because, they realized it's an easement. But I just noticed on GIS, if you look at all of those parcels that are on there, they all seem to be shifted 10, 20 feet. People are building on other people's parcels, on sheds and things like that. I don't know which one's accurate, but if you're curious, just look at Dane County GIS and you look at the boundary lines and.
That's not accurate.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
hoping they were, because there are some people that are building garages on other people's parcels.
No, it's not correct.
It's amazing how so many people don't know where their lot stakes are.
I'd be surprised.
In the interest of staying on topic, is there any additional discussion or questions on agenda item 5B? We're gonna do these as two separate motions, although we've talked about them kind of congruently. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Okay, I think we're ready. Does anyone wanna make a motion?
We have a motion.
Motion on the floor.
For CSM, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so motion on the floor for CS dash.
Just agenda item 5B, certified survey map,
You
CS.
need a
We have a second.
Randy seconded.
So does that one have to have D included to be waived, or is it just the rezone that does?
No, actually, you're right. You probably should
Amend the motion.
amend the motion
To,
for 11 to add item D. So for item number 11, add D for to waive the erosion control.
Some language.
you made the motion, so you have to make the motion to amend.
Make a motion to amend my motion.
I'll motion to amend based on what you had just stated. How's that? We've done that before.
Second is okay with that motion.
D, yeah.
Very good.
We'll need to vote on the amendment first.
All right, so all in favor of approving agenda item 5B?
The amendment first.
Okay. Oh, okay, so, all in favor of approving the amendment to agenda item 5B and, changing the item D for the erosion potential and adding that to a waived item, a waivered item. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none,
I need to go back.
motion passes. Okay, so now,
Main motion.
for agenda item 5B,
Yes.
Okay, so now, would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
No, it's over there, so all you gotta do is.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, seeing none, Chad's gonna have a nice house.
Now we gotta go.
Okay, so now we will move to agenda item 5C, which is the rezone RZ-2517-23, request by Gerald Mant to rezone property from AX, exclusive agriculture, to RL, low density residential, in order to develop a new single-family residence and consolidate parcels for the existing farm associated with 2539 County Highway MM.
Motion to approve.
Anyone second?
Second, sure.
With the amendment.
With
With
the,
the amendment.
as amended.
Thank you.
As amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Ta-da!
You have planning commission next?
Yep, planning commission next, and then both items also go to council next week.
My commission is later this evening, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was my reference when I started looking at things, so I was a bit concerned, just, it looks like, things are in the easement, other people are on other sheds on other properties, and
The aerial just doesn't come in right.
No.
They don't match up to each
it's
other.
not exactly right to the aerial. Good.
Gives you an idea, but that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, moving on to agenda item 5D. The ordinance 2023-0-14, amending chapter 30 to allow for construction of private wells on agricultural lands adjacent to municipal water main and amending the terms in chapter 40 for compulsory water connection waivers postponed from the July 25th, 2023 Common Council meeting. We do have one person registered in support of this, and they are available to answer questions.
That would be me.
The one person left in the room.
Yeah.
We like,
I did bring up I wasn't at last meeting, but I did bring up, in addition to that, that was not included. And there was no discussion on in the agenda as to that issue, so I was just curious. We've talked a little bit about it off record, but my issue was the farm wells for existing farmers, that their well, if their well went bad, I proposed that we allow them to replace it. And the current ordinance does not allow that.
we're gonna schedule a work
Yeah,
session
we did.
too, but we didn't. We never were able to do that.
And I think the amendment offered by plan, is that what we're speaking to this evening?
Okay, so I'll give you
Yes, if
my
staff could step in.
timeline and kind of where we are. But I'd just like to start out to say that the Ag and Rural can make amendments or address this ordinance as you see fit. So as Plan Commission has made amendments, as the Board of Public Works have made amendments, you all could make amendments for review to council. What I will do, I'll kind of walk through the timeline to understand where we are right now. And then I'll leave it open for discussion. So this item, 5D, the ordinance 2023-0-14 went to the Board of Public Works on July 16th. They made one small change, and I just will hopefully bring that up. They changed the word, they changed one word from shall to may. Here is where they did. Then Plan Commission, well, Ag and Rural reviewed it on July 18th and postponed to this meeting. Plan Commission then reviewed on July 18th and they approved the ordinance with changes and specifically on removing these sections that I have X'd out right there. So otherwise, they did pass the ordinance, they approved the ordinance as it stands with the exception of removing as designed by the SIC manual and then as defined by the SIC manual 0272 and 0274.
What is the SIC?
That is the, that's what we use in the planning department to specify different types of uses within the zoning code.
So what does it stand for?
It stands for, what I was proposing,
No, the acronym.
oh,
It's
standard industry
classification.
classification, yeah, thank you.
Acronyms are
Sorry,
a devil.
it is, yeah.
So I don't see this as being benefit. So I think our hope for this is an existing farmhouse, whether it be housing livestock or not. I think we want to protect those folks from having to spend $40,000 on connecting to municipal water. So I don't think as it is written here or as proposed, since it's saying only water for livestock, well, I might be 80 and the livestock may have passed on. I'm certainly not in a position to spend $40,000 to hook up to municipal water, but I could spend 10 to fix my well. So I don't think that this is beneficial, helpful, or in the direction we're trying to go.
I agree. I feel like it violates your bona fide rights as a landowner in these districts by saying you've had this right, we're going to remove it and compel you to connect to a municipal well or municipal water.
Yeah, I mean, why spend 40,000 when you can spend 10, and when I'm 80, I'm probably not, I mean, maybe I'll be in a position to spend 40, probably not, I like to buy horses.
Well, it also would make it unaffordable for passing.
It's
it on
unrealistic.
To your next generation.
Like, here's the farmhouse, but you gotta spend 40,000 to hook up to municipal water.
Well, I think there's two separate issues. The far as it's stated in there, for the vegetable users and for the animals, city water is not recommended. So I would just like to protect the existing farmers who are zoned A1 exclusive. Or once the zoning changes, then I understand.
We're not building new farms in Fitchburg, we're building houses and apartments and.
And I know where the ordinance originally came from. Originally, when we became a city, I was around then, because I was on the last town board, and the second city council. They hunted and pulled different ordinances and plugged them in. And most of the cities that they pulled from didn't have a large agricultural base. So I don't think it was malicious at all, I just don't think it was thought of.
Exactly, that's
So
how
it's
most things are,
unintentional, but
totally unintentional.
Anyway, now we have a chance, an opportunity that maybe we can correct that, but if you're an existing farm, and there's one on Sahin Road, I won't mention the name, but their well went bad. It would cost them roughly $40,000 to run city water up to there, and then they would have to drill
Cause they still have
an
cattle.
agricultural well for the animals that they have. So I think that's not the way that we should treat our farmers.
And I think it's unintentional, like I think it's completely unintentional, am I wrong, that we need to make a motion for an amendment in this body and take it forward, is that the right approach, Deanna?
I think I personally think the right approach would be to amend this ordinance as if that's how you see fit. And then right now, what will happen, it will go for review to council.
So, yeah, it doesn't go back to plan commission, it just goes directly to council, so our recommendation would that go.
And, okay,
Can I ask a question of you, were you at the plan commission where this was discussed?
Yes.
Were there any discussions on that issue
Well,
where a farmer, the example I gave, were there any discussions of that example, not the vegetable issues, because that's another, where I assume the one that you're here to represent.
Yeah, we have an existing farmer, it's ag exclusive ag land. We're within 200 feet of a municipal water source, and he's using watering can method to water his plants because he cannot.
Yeah.
We can't get access, or we're not allowed to construct a well.
Right.
So that's our issue.
That's a little bit different issue that I'm speaking of.
right, and
The plan commission address those two individual issues.
no, because I think if you look, not to this one, but if you screen up about the compulsory waiver,
You want the ordinance maybe?
well, 4090. So the compulsory waiver of connecting to city water is not being changed. So the point of this ordinance that we're looking at is actually to make it more expansive. To allow a farm that doesn't meet the criteria for a private well to be able to get a private well. So it's not restricting any, from what I understand, it's not restricting any rights that ag parcels already have to not have to connect to city water, because that's what 4090 does, so that's still there. So ag land doesn't have to connect to city water under those circumstances, but this new proposal says that you can put in a private well for basically vegetable crops. And I
Or
think
animals.
that, and animals, but I don't think it's intended that you have to have also crops and animals, although I
Either or.
understand why it's reading that, it's either of those purposes. So this is intended to be more liberal, actually.
And I understand that, and I agree with you. What it doesn't address is, and if you read that further, if you have an existing farm and water's within 200 feet and your well goes bad, according to our ordinance, you are not allowed to re-drill your well for human consumption.
What is the compulsory, let me see, the compulsory connection waiver, isn't that still there? Right, except as hereinafter provided upon application, blah, blah, may be granted a compulsory connection waiver, well, that shall was changed to a may, be granted a compulsory connection waiver. So, meaning that the obligation to connect if you're within 200 feet is waived.
Maybe
Potentially.
before, but this is more
Well, that's
restrictive,
well,
because shall be granted says will be, maybe is not
yeah.
favorable to the landowner.
I think that gives discretion
I just
to the city that wasn't there before.
ran into that situation at my own house. I asked for a waiver, and because the zoning was gonna change,
Yes, you were gonna go to residential.
I was required to hook up to it.
Right, well, then you wouldn't,
You still
yes,
would be
then
if
you
you
didn't
go to
fall within the
residential.
ag
You
zone.
still would be.
That takes you out of the
But it also,
agricultural.
so that went to the attorney, city attorney, Valerie.
Mhm.
And it came back that if you are an existing farmer within 200 feet and your well failed, you are not allowed to re-drill that well for human use. You can re-drill the well for agricultural use, but you are required for the human use to go to city water.
But if you,
That was the city attorney's ruling.
but is that because you rezoned your land?
No, this was in the way they explained the existing ordinance.
But now the ordinance has been amended.
It's proposed to be amended.
Is that what that's what what you
But
put on the
it-
screen is? It hasn't been
But
adopted.
I don't think.
Yeah, this has not been adopted. You all are reviewing ordinance 2023-015.
This is the
And this is the ordinance, yes. What I have up on the screen is the proposed ordinance.
My understanding from the city attorney is that if an existing farm, the well fails, they cannot come in and drill a new well for human use. They can come in and drill that well for agricultural use only,
When you're within that 200 feet.
if you're within 200 feet.
And that's my understanding of this current ordinance.
So, for myself, my well goes bad. I would be required to hook onto city water for my house. And I would then be required to drill a new well for my agricultural use. And I see that as a penalty to the farmer, because he's gonna have to pay at least double. And in the case of the example I used, the other farm on Sain Road I used, that would be between $50,000 and $60,000 if their well went bad. $40,000 to hook up to the house.
Yeah.
And $15,000 to replace the ag well. I think that's very unfair to our farmers. It's not the way we keep farmers in Fitchburg, or we should treat farmers in Fitchburg.
Correct.
Totally agree.
So, this has been brought to our attention, so now we need to put together a suggestion of wording. And, yep, and we've done this before and we can do this. So, go to the drawing board.
Here's a copy of the petition I took around.
I think
You did not-
who's this one? Oh,
This-
this wasn't the last meeting.
Well, no.
Oh, okay.
And I tried to catch a wide range of landowners, subdivision people, farmers, and I got no opposition from anybody to it. They were quite shocked that it
Well, it just
was
makes sense.
written the way it was.
What I don't understand is, a farmer, so is that like a separate effort that the committee should take? Because it's not, I'm not sure it's directly relevant to what's.
No, we're amending
Proposed here.
chapter 30 here in ordinance D. I think this is a good opportunity for amendment in this agenda item.
I think you would have to amend both section 30-76, and then I think you would have to also amend,
What is the purpose that the ordinance stated to require existing farmhouse to hook up to city,
that is currently,
like, it just seems impractical that they put it in there for an existing farmstead.
so my understanding.
I don't know what their reasoning was of why it had to be that way, or why they chose it to go that way.
30 and 40.
I mean, what was the benefit?
So it's my understanding if right now, if you're within 200 feet of a water line and your well goes bad, you would need to connect the house right now.
Right.
And that does not change with this ordinance. What does change is now with this ordinance, you can put in a new well for your crops and your livestock.
I understand, but the human consumption part I don't understand.
Yeah, I think
From,
striking that, you have an ordinance that we agree on.
Oh, we even have, staff propose the order, that you even have line item 1. The water is not used for human consumption and only to provide water for irrigation and post-harvest handling of agriculture products and watering of livestock.
Seems like.
And, so this is, it's just so limiting. So we're just gonna vote this down
Strike
completely,
one.
just make a motion to not approve, and
Well, I don't think
what's the
that's,
best approach?
I don't think that's fair to the people who, I assume, wanna move ahead with their well.
Okay, yes,
So,
we need, yeah,
Are we
sorry.
better off to bring, to Randy, are we better off to bring this to council to make the change in another?
So we can approve it with X, Y, and Z caveat.
Well, I think you can amend this by striking 1 altogether as not being one when those conditions
Yeah.
exist. If it's, I'm fine with it being located on a parcel that is at least 10 acres in size and zoned any one of those agricultural districts. But this should be able to be used for farm, residential farm and crop farm purposes.
And what about her gentleman that's watering all these, why can't he drink out of that well?
Right.
If he's working in 100-degree heat for 12 hours, that just makes 0 sense to me. It's not logical. You have a water source there, so he's gonna drive to Quick Trip and buy a plastic bottle?
Think that somebody is gonna drive to Quick Trip when there's a garden hose running there is kinda silly, if you think about it.
Not
Have you-
logical.
Have you had the Quick Trip chicken?
I have.
Oh, God.
We weren't talking about chicken, we've had
I don't
this.
even want to
The
admit it.
spicy, you mean?
No.
if I just wanted to answer your point, from what I understand,
Yeah.
Deanna, correct me, 'cause you're the expert. The way the ordinances were written otherwise is, if you're within 200 feet, you have to connect to the city unless you meet all of these criteria. And the criteria are very, like, you can't really farm, you can't, or, I don't know. The
They are
criteria are
very
very
limiting.
difficult to meet. So the point of this was to make it clear, was to allow somebody to not have to go through all those gymnastics in meeting some of those more difficult criteria.
To
And
make it more
instead
standardized
be able to-
for-
To be able to put the well in, so they're expressly saying you can put a well in if it's for crops or animals.
As long as it's
Because
not
it's-
for human consumption.
Right, because I think the policy of the city, the public works is that, they frown at, or they, they wanna incentivize connecting to the city water.
That doesn't work for everybody here in Fitchburg, unfortunately. So should we move forward with nixing line item 1? I don't know why that's such a tongue twister.
I like that.
Do we just strike that?
Section 1,
Under
Section
5D and then section 1, Randy, like, I don't know how to explain where I am.
yeah. So I'm losing.
It's like number 1, right here, I don't know. Does that help?
Section 130.67.
I lost it. Okay,
I got it up here.
perfect,
there
thank you,
it is.
thank you,
Okay.
easier.
Okay, so Plan Commission, Plan Commission has already took this out, just so that everybody knows. And then Plan Commission has already taken out this one too.
Which is just, we don't even know what
Which
that
is-
means.
Well, that's the thing, but I'm sure it just defines what livestock is.
Yeah.
So I'm not too terribly worried about that.
Well, we're gonna delete that line item altogether with
Yeah.
our proposal, so it
That's
doesn't, none of it really matters. We just have to make sure that there's no wording in anything above this that strikes anything we're trying to accomplish here. So I think we need to read it, that paragraph.
I guess maybe I'm wrong in that you don't wanna strike the whole paragraph.
Correct, you do not.
You
Okay.
do wanna strike, the private well is not used to obtain private water for human consumption. And then you could start it, is used only, well, not only,
It's
strike
not-
the word only.
This is a bad paragraph, Adam.
Yeah, I would strike the entire first line, strike the word and strike the word only, the fourth word in the second line.
Well, if you strike the not in one, the private well is used.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
it's a
to
little
obtain
clunky, but I mean, if you use.
Water for
remove-
human consumption is used
If that's the objective,
to obtain water for human, it's just used,
Only then too.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
it's just used for humans and livestock.
I think if you do that.
I think you have to have a little more than that, because it's when
No, we
all
don't-
of the
we don't
following
have to break out
circumstances
the garden
exist.
hose.
If you're not using it for irrigation post-harvest, then you need an or in between those.
Well, you can insert that, sure, if that's.
Because I don't want somebody to be
Why do we
declined.
care? Put a
Well-
well in, do whatever you want with it.
If,
Drink out of the hose, water the vegetables, water the cattle. Why do we care? Why are we defining it?
I know at your farm, if you can't drink it, your horse isn't gonna drink it.
I'm drinking it quicker than my horses are
No,
drinking
I see
it.
it.
They're drinking better water than me, Mark. You know how that goes.
I know how that goes at your house.
Yes, it's a whole different deal. So do we need that?
I think you're right, that should stay, but because BM says all, in order to not be restrictive, if somebody doesn't have irrigation or handling of agricultural products, I think you have to put an or in there.
Or what if they don't have livestock or agricultural products and they just have a well?
That's the private well
As long
is
as
used
they're-
to obtain private water for human consumption, or is used to obtain private water, provide water for irrigation and post-harvest handling of agricultural products. And now you've solved for, can I just have this on my,
You're gonna rewrite that or.
I'm gonna try.
Oh, yeah.
Or strike and add.
Right.
You know what, it might be easy, so instead of or,
Oof.
that's a
I'm so
mess.
bad on these programs. Disaster.
You know what I'm gonna do, this is the section that we're concerned about. So instead of trying to make my life difficult. That's weird. So there's section 1. And I don't know, oh, I know.
Well,
It's on
Dave's-
my other screen. Ignore that for right now.
Cool.
Then or is used, so I will strike that and then put in or, right?
Not to make things difficult, but I'm going to. I think the problem, I don't think you can just look at it like this because 3067A, I think, says you can't put a private well in unless you meet all these criteria. So I think you have to look at all of 3067 to make sure it all
That's what I
flows
meant,
together, so
exactly. I need to look at it really closely to make sure we're not like limiting ourselves.
Right, so
I'm
you
gonna
might,
just jump out of here, but
is there a way to,
I'm gonna go grab that section of the code.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about that if we were not looking at the whole picture.
right, is there a way to not, to just kind of say what your goals are? and not-
Yes.
And not,
And let staff to do it?
Can we say
yeah,
what
yeah,
our goals
do
are?
this, each of the wording, the words and
Yes,
everything.
I mean, we certainly can approach it like
That
that.
might be easier to tell them what we would like. And then review it another time.
And it may not be internally inconsistent, but I think it might be, so I just think you have to be careful.
Yes, so you could approve the ordinance, with changes to align with such and such and such.
Okay, that's exactly a good approach then.
I can live with that. And that
Because
allows
then
us
she
to
can move
forward.
on and we can,
Trying to, yeah.
You know,
understandably so.
I hate to muddy the waters.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
all right, George.
But why is least 10 acres.
Well, that's a subject we need,
Yeah, that's
we need to talk about that.
We don't
We're gonna
know.
get there as well, yeah.
That's let's get through the first part.
Okay.
Thank you though, yeah.
'Cause I'm not in favor of the 10 acres myself,
Adam was already getting there.
but let's try to get through this. My only goal is if you have an existing farm in your zone, A1 exclusive, ag small, or ag transitional, and your well fails, that you're allowed to replace your well. And the uses for the new well are the same as what they were for the old well. So it does allow human consumption and it allows you to feed your animals and not hook onto city water until your zoning changes. Once the zoning changes, that triggers the hooking onto city water. But because you've got some huge distances, some of these farms are set back quite a little ways. And you're talking a lot of money.
Very costly.
But then you're not.
Then you're not 200 feet.
200 feet.
200 feet,
The
200,
parcel.
it's not at the parcel.
Yeah, so
The
you,
parcel goes all the way to the road, and that, your house could be 600, 800 feet back.
physical.
The house, yeah.
Yeah, it does go to property situated with
Yeah.
200.
With the property
of it.
within 200 feet, so, and several, well, George, how far is the farmhouse you grew up in off the road?
Well, shit.
Go
What
a
if
long
you
ways.
just changed it to the residence instead of the parcel?
205 feet.
You
No,
know,
it's-
You're gonna make that clear
Yeah.
right on record now, right?
Good call.
Is this camera rolling?
That's my goal,
I
is to
understand,
make
but,
sure
I
that
mean,
you can
I-
replace your well
Well,
and use it for the uses you were using before it failed and not have to hook
and I
on
would
to city
even
water.
go one further than that, Mark. Like,
well,
what if I have a house out here for 20, 30 years? Here's my house. Well, the city of Fitchburg loves to develop. So here they come. I might not be a farmer, but I might be a girl out here by myself with my house, and now I'm supposed to hook onto city water?
Yep.
Even if I'm not a farmer?
It depends on your zoning.
I don't know.
well, I
It
think,
depends on the zoning, Amy.
I think to Amy's point though, there's gonna
What about rural
probably be
residential,
more
Mark?
going down the road as more encroachment comes out with the city, there's gonna be more AS lots created.
And what about rural
And
residential?
We're gonna run into more circumstances down the road. I would think.
The
And so let's
potential
be
is there,
mindful.
there's no question of that, but my issue personally is why should a farmer be penalized and have to pay twice? Because he's gotta drill a well for his cows, and then he's gotta pay however many thousands of dollars to hook on to city water.
Why can't you replace an existing well no matter where you are?
I have no problem with that, but I think that won't pass.
I think that might be another discussion.
For a different time, but I'm just saying, you know,
I
obviously
think
we're
that won't
looking back.
pass, but I think that on ag exclusive land, to allow you to replace your well, so it uses the same thing, the new well does the same thing as the old well did. I think that's reasonable, common sense, and that should pass.
What is the kind of cost associated? Like, if this little house right here that I drew, and now the city encroached, what kind of cost is incurred, just out of curiosity, to hook onto city water?
Well, let's use my daughters for example. I have a bid for my daughters, and that zoning changed on that, was part of a farm parcel, we took it off, and it will eventually change once I do the paperwork, to rural residential, correct me
Okay,
if
so
I'm wrong.
rural residential?
I think we're gonna do it, low density residential
Yeah,
on
which,
that one.
so, but will be residential, her house will be
Okay.
residential. There is no, hose connection on the water main, so that main has to be live tapped, the road has to be bored, and you have to go 150 feet up to the house. I have a bid of about $15,000, a rough estimate, to accomplish that task.
That you would have to pay.
Yes.
So my understanding, to get back to your question, right? So when the city would put in a new water main, right, it would be part of a larger project, a larger road project, a larger infrastructure project. And what is generally done at that time is all of those connections are figured into the city's overall cost of doing that work. And then you would be assessed back as the individual homeowner. And it would not be that much because they would be opening up the road, putting in the new
Different
infrastructure.
situation.
It's a different situation.
Different situation.
Yeah.
And usually what they do in that case is they have anywhere from 5 to, I've seen it as far as 15 years payment.
Yes, you can, and yes, you can space it out on your property tax.
So it's done that. In fact, I think we've done that, Randy, since you've been.
On Said Road.
So, I know we've done
Special
it in
assessments.
the past, over a period of time.
No one's gonna come and knock on your door and say, you gotta spend 15,000 to put a,
They did me.
well, you're a different situation.
That's, they did my daughter.
And so that's what we're dealing with
They
right
did my
here at
daughter.
this point. Are we addressing that in this situation, Mark? Are we addressing that or are we not?
No. Will not help her because her zoning changed. It's all tied to the zoning. So when you go to rural residential or whichever the zoning, residential zoning code is,
And then you're
then
gonna,
that's a different deal. You're triggering that it's not agriculture. What I'm talking about is if you're ag exclusive and you have, a farm, that is not the same. So it's tied to the zoning, is what I'm saying. And I think that's reasonable, and I think that has a reasonable chance of passing.
Okay. Yeah. So do we wanna make a motion for this item 5D and then add on these conditions that we've discussed, or the modifications?
I'll make a motion to pass, that's
5D,
5D
ordinance.
with the addition of allowing an existing A1 ag small, ag transitional farm zoning.
Exclusive.
A1, that's ag exclusive.
So ATASAX?
To, if their well fails, to either place or replace.
Well, that would just be replace.
Well, let's say, yes, replace is
Or
fine,
if you can't
but
dig in that same area.
yeah, you
Still, I think it's still replacing the well, whether it's in a new location or not, it's replacing, but a new well where there was no existing well would be placing.
yeah, and that's,
Finger replacing.
I
think place or replace.
replace or replace is what,
Yeah.
I'd rather leave it that way.
For any type of consumption?
For,
As long as it's on that same property.
as long as it's on the same property, for human use and agricultural use.
and crops.
Well, that would be agricultural use.
Okay.
That would cover watering.
For any use, what does it matter? Put a well in and do
So
anything with it.
human use, but we have to make sure we have human use spelled out in there, because that
Okay.
is what is excluded now.
Okay, good point.
I have to ask, but there's an entirely different section for high capacity wells, right?
Yes, totally different.
Right.
And I'm familiar with that, I have
I
one
just
of
didn't,
those.
I wanted to make sure when we say for any use, we're not talking about high capacity.
No. High capacity is a whole other animal. That's for large irrigation.
That's a special conditional use, I'm sure.
I don't think the city regulates it. I don't think we regulate
I'm not
irrigation,
familiar, Mark, I
but,
don't know.
Alright, so this is the amendment.
So,
Are you, we're still addressing the same issue though, right? I mean, we're, to meet the needs, what,
Yeah, it would be.
yes, I made a motion to pass that.
Yeah.
okay. Just wanna make certain that we're not off mark here, that's all.
And then add the existing farm so they can replace a well if it goes bad.
Okay,
for human use and agricultural use is what I wrote.
Perfect, yeah, I mean,
So that's the motion? I'll second
Well, is that the motion? You wanted to speak to 10 acres or less.
Well, that's another issue.
I'll withdraw my motion.
okay.
There you go.
Thank you. If you'll withdraw your second, we'll,
Okay.
I would like to see it less than 10 because a vegetable farm,
That's exactly what
a vegetable farm can be less
You
than,
can grow a lot in 4 or 5 acres.
or even 2.
Let's go back to staff as to, do we know why that 10 acres is there? Do you have any idea, Deanna? Is there-
That was something that came out of,
Blackness.
no,
No.
that came out of Public Works, and I think was just thought to be a reasonable number.
Carrying watering cans across 10 acres, 9 acres, no problem. 10 acres, wow.
There's a lot of land.
It seems consistent if you're gonna say AS, that it just strike the acreage requirement and, I mean, if you're zoned AS, you're what, 3 acres or more?
Or less.
AS is, what
I think
is?
5 acres, right?
I think.
No, it is 3, you're
I think
right,
It's 3,
it's 3, you're right.
I think. it's
Must be
3.
under 3 or must be?
Must be at least 3
At least 3.
to be AS.
So if you're gonna put an acreage requirement in there, say 3, but I think you're saying that by saying
I would
AS
rather say none.
Yeah,
myself.
we don't need it, probably.
seems
I would rather say, I would rather remove the
strike, yep,
acreage.
me too.
Because where I grew up when I was a kid, a couple across the street had a vegetable, that's how they made their living. And it was about 2.5 acres. And they made a very good living on it, they worked very hard, but it worked for them.
Do we have, like, when we looked at the CSM, not to change topic or divert any, but when we looked at the Mant CSM, all of those houses along Irish, are those residential or are those, a lot of those
Those are all
small
residential.
lot A?
No, those are all residential.
Irish.
Those are all RL.
I can think of only one in there that's a 15-acre parcel, I don't know if that's ag small or what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. An Irish, you mean?
Oh, you're talking over by Mance, yeah, I was on the other side, further.
Over here.
What is the legend key for small lot?
It was even further over,
Small lot egg is AS,
yep, ag small,
but that's park. There's
Yeah,
not very
that-
much
no.
AS out there.
there's not. Because it's a fairly new zoning.
It's a fairly new
Zoning code.
yeah, it's fairly new zoning district, and it's only really been used, as far as I'm aware of, as, when there's been a fairly recent subdivision.
Yeah.
Maybe in the last 10 years even.
Might be less than that.
Yeah, it might be less than that, you're right.
So Mark, do you wanna remake your motion?
Yes,
We'll say the same thing.
yeah, it's,
Allow existing farm house zoned. So this is what I had for you, Mark. Allow existing farm zoned AX, AT, AS. If the well fails, be allowed to replace or place a well for human use and agricultural use. And then you would also be asking for
Strike
to strike the 10-acre
the lot size, or the.
lot size.
I think that leaves
Or
us
to-
out because you're talking about if the well fails,
If the
we
well,
don't
I
even have
agree.
a well.
I heard the same
We don't
thing.
have a well.
Place, you said
Yeah,
place or
Place or replace, but he led it with if the well fails, and I think
Fails.
don't say that if the well fails.
Cause we don't even have a
Just-
well to fail.
Well, I think they're looking at above and beyond as
Yeah.
well, yeah.
So we're approving this, but we're adding.
We're not actually adding text right now. You all are
we're
just saying,
proposing.
I think what we need to be clear that all you're saying is, number one, you wanna make sure the farmhouse can use the water.
Yes.
Can replace the well,
And,
replace the well, and that it can be used for the same uses as the old well was.
Yeah, and the employee at the new vegetable farm well can drink out of it.
mhm. So we'll let we'll let the city attorney go in and try to make that work in terms of the text, but we'll just say,
Yes.
that we want to make sure that an existing farm with an existing farmhouse
With that
can,
zoning.
yes, with that zoning can replace or place a well for human consumption
And
and
Yeah.
agricultural use.
And then in the existing, presentation that was given to us, we would like to strike
Acreage.
the acreage.
I would also wanna add that this existing farmer that we have, he doesn't have a farmhouse, so if a farmhouse is part of this, it's necessary, then he won't be able to drink.
No, it's
Neither
two
is
separate
the-
issues,
Yeah, okay, good, I just wanna make sure
two
that that's
separate
not
issues.
like part of that, okay.
Because under the original, what we're approving is, should qualify what you're doing.
Okay.
And then this, the other one is if, my example is because I have an existing farm, if my
Yeah.
well went bad, I couldn't replace, I would have to bring in city water to it and I had to pay twice.
I agree with her though, I think that you've made a motion for a suggestion of text that speaks to replacing a failed well. And it doesn't, the qualifying action is having either an existing structure or residence or.
That was not my intent.
Well, let's not try to rewrite the ordinance, let's just make a motion to say staff needs
That's the
to
concept.
fix this. I think that will be easier.
I just don't wanna send something to staff and have it be directed at,
Exclude.
yeah, and exclude your.
That's Brad and I's job.
Surely we're not wanting to do that.
They,
Comfortable?
staff understands the main objection,
Okay.
so
Okay.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
the original objection.
No.
Yeah, okay.
So then it would come back to us after staff's corrects all the wording?
Yeah, I would.
Once
would
we
you do that?
attorney, is that the plan?
Send it out for us to review in a quick email.
Well, it's scheduled to go to council next Tuesday.
That's, I don't think it has to come back to us myself, I'm comfortable with that.
You
but
two
I
will
would-
take
I would
it.
appreciate if staff would at least, bring it to the chair.
We can do that.
With that said, what will come before council? What we're proposing after it goes through staff, attorney, if it can happen in that short period of time?
Yep, what will go to council is what Board of Public Works did, what Plan Commission did, and then what you all did. And then council's going to have to make a determination how they want to proceed.
Not looking at the documents, is Ag and Rural the only committee that has made some significant adjustments?
Well,
are the
Plan
other-
Commission did,
Plan Commission did also.
yes.
I understand, but Plan Commission, are all the other committees in line with what Plan Commission, or are they, are we looking at 10 different versions here?
Three.
Three.
So Public Works made some other changes as well?
They just changed,
One word.
one word.
Oh,
They're
okay.
gonna remove shall and then put in may.
Oh, I thought it was Plan as well. Oh,
And then Plan made, so our RCC approved. Board of Public Works removed that shall and put may. Plan Commission did this, is what Plan
Mhm,
Commission
I saw
did.
that.
And then your Ag and Rural is up next.
Okay.
Well, rightfully so, we made those adjustments in this.
With all that said, you will be at council next week.
I will.
And you.
I will.
Oh, okay, I think me too.
I think I will too.
It's not coming before plan again, because you guys have already looked at it.
Yeah.
Plans of approved as
It's all right,
amended.
but when it's so, we don't have to.
When they remove shall and
Shelley, are you inland?
place may in there,
What's
what,
that meaning?
is that just
How long-
Tim on a whim feels like it, or?
3 or 4 meetings.
I wasn't at the
I
discussion.
was there and
can't-
it was someone
Yeah.
on the commission, it wasn't Tim, who made that suggestion.
No, I'm saying, what's the effect of changing that language? Then Tim just gets to say, I do like this one, I don't like that one. Shall is very, should and shall or, you know, this is the directive, this is what you will do. But then may is like, you know what,
We might.
Decided that.
don't really like that guy,
Mhm.
not happening. Are there guidelines for that, or is it just an executive decision, period,
My understanding it would be just a
decision?
decision.
Decision by council, or what word they choose, if they agree
Oh,
with it.
right, yes, but if council said agreed with the board, then it would be may, and then it would give more discretion to staff, to the director of public works. That's my understanding.
It's not my favorite change, but I'm not gonna make
I
a
would-
motion to it.
But our change has eliminated that whole paragraph.
Well, we haven't
No.
Not
really wrote anything, what I was suggesting to you, and it actually, it's in a little bit different paragraph too.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I
it's-
was worried about that.
It's in sort of the preamble to that.
Yeah,
I knew that there would be a.
So what we have talked about so far is that you all would approve the ordinance as long as staff can make the following adjustments or changes that would allow an existing farm, if zoned AX, AT, AS, to place or replace a well if it fails for human use and agricultural use. And then number 2, you all have requested to strike the words at least 10 acres. So we haven't really gone in to make a whole bunch of changes in the text,
We
but
wanna go back to the,
I like the shall, if I can make a separate motion to remove to stay with shall. I like, you've got all these absolutes and then you've got this on a whim statement.
I will, the motion maker will,
Why do you gotta be the motion maker?
I was the motion maker, and I'll accept that amendment. If the second will accept it.
Second will.
So we're back to. We don't have to vote on a friendly amendment. So we don't need to vote on a friendly amendment.
okay.
And then, just to clarify, I just wanna be clear, that if it fails is if it's to replace, only if you're replacing a well, right? So when you say that, it's only if you're replacing, okay, that's great. And I do know why they changed the may, shall to may, and it had nothing to do with more discretion. There's someone made a comment that the may would coincide with section 30.67, which says the director of public works may authorize the construction and operation of a private well. So it was just kind of having it be the same, being the same. And I don't think they were thinking about discretion at all, but I think that's a good point.
All right.
Thank you.
Alright, so
I think we're ready for the.
we have a motion and a second on the floor. All of those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
Who was the second for the original motion?
Randy.
I was Randy.
Alright, that brings us to agenda item 5.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
5.
All right.
5E, the resolution R-118-23, adopting an expansion of the South Stoner Prairie Neighborhood Future Urban Development Area, FUDA. Deanna, or,
I'm gonna let that one go to Brad.
okay, Brad.
This is his.
So, we are, just some background, we were
kicking off a planning process for two FUDA areas that are currently outside of the urban service area, but they are designated as future urban development areas. South Stoner Prairie is one of them. The currently adopted comprehensive plan has some, some specific procedures to adopting an expansion of the existing South Stoner Prairie future urban development area, which I did outline in the memo, but basically it's saying if it can be served by sewer, then this section that's shown in blue on the map up here can be added. And as long as it's consistent with the other principles that were outlined in the food to growth model, I'll list those in a second, but basically, that blue section there is the east portion of two parcels that are within that FUDA right now, and we thought it would make sense to include those full parcels within the future urban development area, considering that they can be served by municipal sewer. And that was confirmed, I think it's the Seminole Highway Interceptor plan shows that those parcels are within the service area of it. So we're bringing that to Ag and Rural, basically as a referral to expand that section of the FUDA to include, the existing FUDA is the orange, to include the blue section as well, for this upcoming planning process. And
So the orange is already,
yes, the orange is already a FUDA.
okay.
So there is,
And the blue is that the portion they're gonna quarry?
That's what I was just gonna
No.
ask. I was
Is it-
just gonna ask that.
is the 230?
Well, yes, I guess I should step back, let me go back.
That's where we just talked
Yeah.
about.
Yes.
Yes, I'm mistaken,
Exactly.
let me go and get that, so it makes.
Where does that include the 235 acres, the blue
Put that on
included?
there.
No, the blue is not including the two.
Okay.
So, right now, well, here. Okay,
Yeah,
there we go. So, yes, these parcels are going to be quartered and including the pieces. So this, what we're proposing is to take the entire parcel of these two. But we need approval to extend the study area to include those two entire parcels. And yes,
Which two?
so these two parcels,
That
right?
parcel,
That one.
where the aerial is not shown is the new FUDA area.
Yeah, so we would expand and just take these two parts. This is the O'Brien Solar Farm, that's Edgewood, where Edgewood will go. So,
and the existing urban service area boundary goes to that parcel line that we're proposing the expansion to.
yes, there we can get the existing urban service area. We, you all, a couple years ago, expanded the urban service area to include the Edgewood parcel there.
Mhm.
And
But
another,
the orange area is,
The current study area,
that's not included, it's just a study area at this point in time.
that's where the South
That's where it
Stoner
exists.
Prairie neighborhood plan is going to happen.
And that has been approved.
it's been
Brad is
budgeted.
It's budgeted, yes.
Brad is just kicking off the start of that planning process.
Contract's going to council this month, so,
And the contract allows what?
The neighborhood plan,
yeah.
Okay. Well, at some point in time, we as a city have to draw a line in the sand and stop ruining the agricultural land.
Well, that won't,
We have to, when we do that, we have to accept that we're not gonna just keep nibbling away at the agricultural land, piece at a time, and live within what boundaries we have. If we're gonna be a farm-friendly community that we like to brag that we are. So,
I think though we've already approved for that to not be farmland by the quarry.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, at some point in time,
Yeah,
we gotta stop somewhere.
You're just making a statement at this point.
Just a statement.
Could you take that up a little and show more of the orange?
Yep.
Okay, so that, what's that street over, I can't think of it.
So this is Fitchrona.
Yeah, but
Just-
go up to the left there. What road is this right here? You should know, right there.
Oh, this one right here.
Yeah,
That's not Pleasant, is it?
So I mean,
Tonto Trail,
yeah,
Tonto Trail
That's in the town.
in the town.
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay, so
It's
then
not-
take it down, Melissa, cause I'm pretty short.
That's to be able to point.
So this area here, what's gonna be done with this area?
That's a neighborhood, right?
Is that planned?
That's all in the urban service area right now.
That's the Hammersley parcel.
Yes, and there is a proposal for a subdivision.
Right,
That came through for CDP a couple years ago already.
So,
And it has approval for some single families.
right.
And then down here, I have not seen any plans for these 40s. I have not.
Are those two little pieces, then it's,
These,
no, the ones that you wanna add, that you wanna extend.
oh,
You wanna
yeah,
add on?
my mouse is like,
Those two parcels. there.
That's, I might be mixing up issues here. Is that in order, you have to have a whole parcel to be included in the urban service
No.
or something? So you're
These urban service area applications are based on full parcels, but so I guess if that, like 2/3 of a parcel, if this remainder was not brought into the study area and they wanted to bring that 2/3 of a parcel in, they probably would have to subdivide it, I would guess,
Oh,
in order to bring it
in
into
order
urban
to
service
even
area.
begin the quarrying, they would have to have the whole parcel.
No,
No, the
this is
quarry's
separate from the
approved.
quarry, that's already,
yeah, that's already,
this is separate from that. This is for the neighborhood planning boundary, basically.
just make it a lot cleaner if the entire parcel.
To
was
have,
to-
right.
to begin.
Okay.
I don't know what else you would do with that if you
Yeah.
left it alone. I mean,
Right.
it's-
I agree with you. I'm in support of,
Yeah,
now that it's been explained, I'm in support of bringing it in.
right.
Only thing, we'll have, another day, we'll fight the other battle.
Sure.
What are the ramifications of it? I mean, that's a pretty big question. But is it like a benefit to the landowner, or it can't be developed if this isn't expanded, or?
if we don't do the neighborhood study to include those pieces, then technically we can't bring it into the urban service area, right?
That's my
Like,
understanding.
And so there'd be this weird little sliver in
You know.
between, so eventually we would hope to start extending the urban
That
service.
goes back to the point of what are we gonna do with it? I mean, it's just gonna,
Mhm.
it's kinda like Strand Capital. I mean, it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Why,
and nothing-
do you know why the service area the study stopped where it did?
I don't know for sure. My assumption is that at that point sewer service was not available there. And that's why they put this procedure specifically, and this procedure is only outlined for this FUDA to add the rest of those parcels.
I believe that was a separate ownership at one time.
The Richardson?
I don't think
No.
it could have been.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, I believe it was,
It was a separate ownership.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the
That was a
name.
separate ownership at
right.
one time.
You're saying that somebody owned
was a
land
long, slender
there
piece.
and then,
Is that where they burned the house down? Is that the
They took
Richardson?
two houses
Yeah,
out of
last
it, but that
fall
one piece
or-
was a long, slender parcel.
Right,
Right.
late fall.
So that's probably, to answer the question, that's probably why.
There you go.
it looks like you're thinking of the parcels immediately to the west. The next 40 over has divided ownership, but
No, I'm talking way back, a ways back, that parcel next to O'Brien's. That was, Richardson's had two different parcels up there.
So I'll just highlight the principles that were in this 2007 resolution, that these are the growth models, the principles that the growth models of the FUDAs are based on. Encouraging development along the Fitchburg, Oregon rail corridor, protecting high-quality agricultural lands from development. Maintaining extensive groundwater recharge areas, encouraging redevelopment and infill, limiting growth to areas that can be sewered by gravity, and limiting growth to areas that can be served by the existing water distribution pressure zones. So some of those are not applicable here, but I guess our thinking was that considering the South Stoner Prairie FUDA is already there, leaving these slivers would not result in high-quality agricultural land remaining there, and felt that expanding it to include the remainder of those parcels is consistent with those principles.
Can you turn off the FUDA layer for a second?
Sure.
Just for a brief second so I can see the parcel line.
Sure.
So then, I guess, alright. More, you can turn it back on now. So we're talking about expanding it here.
Those
Yes.
two.
Shouldn't you also talk about expanding it here?
I thought about that, but the comp plan does not specify adding those pieces to it. And the FUDAs are created by the comp plan, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not to say that maybe a year from now we'll be back, but
Okay, is there any other questions, discussion?
Was there any issue with sewer lines on that? I mean,
it shouldn't be. I mean, they're coming along Lacey Road.
yeah, I don't
I
know
believe it can be
much
sewered.
about that, but I know the lift station issue can be really complicated.
Did you
It's
not say
within, it's within the Seminole Highway interceptor zone,
Interceptor.
So it's okay
gravity,
as far as that goes.
You've got quite a bit of topography there, so you've got some grade that will help you with that.
Yeah,
and that likely doesn't guarantee that every single inch of those two parcels would be serviceable by sewer, but it's within the zone and I think further, including it in the study could look at specifics.
is the quarry operation gonna begin soon there too? I think maybe it already.
They're moving towards that direction, I think.
Yeah.
They're still working with Public Works on Lacey.
You look at next year.
Yeah. I think they had hoped to get in this year.
I thought they would be, yeah,
I'm not sure.
probably delays.
For the Hammersley Road, Hammersley parcel development or for the blasting?
The
For the quarry.
quarry.
Any
Yeah.
other discussion, questions?
Yeah, here.
Are we ready to make a motion?
Motion for
Okay.
approval.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed, hearing none, seeing none, motion passes. So now we have to come back to our original agenda item 5A, which is the election of a new chair.
This is where I said maybe just for this one.
So you guys are sick of seeing me in this position, this spot already, so let's have any motions for someone.
I would make a motion for you.
I'll second that.
I will respectfully decline.
Okay.
And we will discuss that later, Adam, why. Appreciate it, but I'll tell you later. I will make a motion to appoint Mark to the inaugural committee chair
I'll second.
position. Okay, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Hearing
very
no
much.
opposed, so now we have a new chair. Mark, you don't have to stare at me for another meeting.
No debate?
I don't mind helping. And Roger wanted to
Vice
stay
chair, do we have
as
to-
vice chair. so-
Roger remains as vice chair, I
Okay,
believe.
we don't have to go through that process again.
Yeah.
He and I
Makes
talked
sense.
about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark,
that
for
works.
accepting.
Yeah.
And your commitment seems very real to Lino.
Been committed.
I'm gonna let Mark do a couple years and then I'll fill in for him when he gets tired maybe, or maybe Adam will be ready to take the chair position by then.
I'm chair of enough.
Fair enough. Okay, so is there any report then from the department?
No, we, in addition to the South Stoner Neighborhood Plan, Brad is also going to be concurrently doing the Greenfield neighborhood plan, so
Busy.
hopefully getting started this fall and working through a big chunk of next year. And then after that, the mayor go ahead.
The last time we did this, planning staff were different people then. And the thing they did not include, and they admitted it afterwards, is staying agriculture. That was not an option. Check the box, was not a box to check for that,
For the last neighborhood plan,
when we did this the last time.
okay.
And I hope that we're wiser this time, that we allow people to opt for no change.
Okay.
Because growth isn't always good. Because eventually we'll kill the agriculture if we keep it up.
And in Fitchburg, yeah.
And we brag about it, how diverse we are and how friendly we are to ag, and sometimes we are and sometimes we're not. So if that's one of the things that we want to take and invest in, then we have to be respectful.
Okay. We will take that note.
Thank you.
And then the other thing I do, another priority for mayor coming up for later next year is doing the comp plan. Doing a full revision of the comp plan.
Beginning that process.
Yes.
When does it need to be done by?
Well, it's technically, state law requires a 10-year.
Every 10 years.
But mayor has expressed her disappointment in the last process.
We were
because-
behind the 8 ball last time.
Yes, because it really didn't look at the FUDAs and agricultural issues.
Okay.
So there's money in the CIP right now.
So what time frame would we be looking at?
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but later next year.
After the neighborhood plans are complete.
I think
Later
it's
in-
wise, yeah.
2023 or in 2024?
24.
24.
24.
Mhm.
Springtime or?
No, he's gonna be pretty busy with,
Neighborhood
we're
plans.
gonna be pretty busy through a big chunk of 24 on the neighborhood
So
plans.
we're looking at the beginning the new FUDA in the fall of 24.
And she is very interested in relooking at these FUDAs and looking more closely at the agricultural issues. that-
Okay.
I wasn't here for that process, but that's a priority.
Right, I don't mean to be critical of the people that were here, they just did not include that as, the prior people, I don't mean to be critical. What they did do, they did well, that was just not an option.
Or a priority, maybe.
No, it was not an option, period. So that, when we brought that up, it
Oh,
was,
that's right, I
when we
remember.
brought that up, it was not an option.
Was it a timeline issue, the shortness of it? I mean,
No. They were directing, and this is not my words.
Mhm.
What I was told was that they were directing towards growth, not no growth.
Yeah, I think we were doing that.
And I had a big problem with it. It was, the same isn't all bad, we're looking at 10 years.
yeah, sounds like the mayor's already addressing that with the new one, so.
I would hope so.
When was that last comprehensive?
I think it was approved
19
in
and
April
20.
2020, before I came on, yeah.
So, yeah, hard to imagine that we're looking at how that time goes so quickly.
Mhm.
But it does.
Item 6.
Can you tell, I'm like, is there any announcements? Does anyone have any announcements? Seeing none, hearing none.
It's pretty quiet.
You guys are done.
Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me that again.